They say every family has secrets. But what if yours was cursed, not by rumor or superstition, but by something that leaves marks you can't wash away, something that stains the bloodline itself? In the early autumn of 1823, a farmer named Elias Thorn bought a stretch of land in northern Virginia. Locals said it was cheap because the soil was wrong. They said it drank too much water. They said it whispered when the wind died. Elias didn't care. He wanted a legacy, a place his children's children could call their own. But legacies have a way of deciding who really owns them. Within a year, Elias's wife, Margaret, began to change. She stopped speaking during the day and would wake at night to dig small holes behind the house. When asked what she was doing, she said she was feeding the ground. Hello everyone, before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. By the second winter, the Thorn family was barely holding on. Their eldest daughter, Ruth, disappeared in a snowstorm. Her footprints led straight into the orchard and stopped cold beneath an old oak. No one ever found her. Elias's neighbors whispered that the land had taken her, that the Thorns had disturbed something meant to stay buried. When Elias finally abandoned the farm in 1827, he left behind everything: his tools, his home, even his family Bible. But what's strange, what historians can't explain, is that every family who's lived there since has vanished within a decade. Their names are scratched into the old church ledgers, but the graves remain empty. 2 centuries later, the descendants of Elias Thorn are scattered across the country. They don't talk much about where they came from. They don't like to, because every few years one of them goes missing. No ransom, no body, just gone. And the land, that same stretch of wrong soil, still stands empty. Locals say the air hums there after dark. But the real question isn't what happened to the Thorns. It's why the curse hasn't died with them. Because if you follow the records far enough, you'll find that every 10th generation bears the mark again. And the 10th is alive right now. The name is Abigail Thorn. She's 37, a school counselor in Maryland, married, 2 children. On the surface, her life is the picture of normalcy. But that's how the curse always begins. In silence, in routine, in the slow comfort of forgetting. She doesn't know about the land. Not really. Her grandmother, who raised her, burned every photograph older than 1900. She said old things carried weight. She said memories could rot like meat. When Abigail was 10, she once found a box hidden beneath the floorboards of her grandmother's house. Inside were small things: a wedding ring, a child's tooth wrapped in linen, and a lock of hair that looked far too fresh to be over a century old. Her grandmother caught her, snatched the box away, and whispered, "You don't touch the Thorn things." Abigail never forgot that sentence, even if she didn't understand it. It wasn't until the winter of 2021, while tracing her family tree for a class project with her daughter, that the pattern began to form. She found an online archive of census records, death certificates, newspaper clippings, all with the same surname, Thorn, scattered across the eastern states, and nearly all of them shared a peculiar detail. The date of their death was missing, or listed as presumed. It was a coincidence, she told herself, until one night when she woke at 3:13 a.m. to the sound of whispering near her daughter's bedroom. She thought it was the TV, but the house was dark. The whispers weren't in English. They were low, rhythmic, like a chant muffled beneath the floor. When she leaned close to her daughter's bed, she saw something scratched faintly into the wall above her pillow. Not drawn, not written, scratched. 3 words: feed the ground. The same words her ancestor's wife had spoken 200 years ago. From that night on, Abigail began to dream of the oak tree, the one that had grown in that cursed Virginia orchard. In the dreams, the tree had faces, not carved but emerging, mouths open as if screaming, eyes hollow with soil packed deep inside. And in every dream, she could hear a voice behind her whispering, "You are the 10th." Abigail didn't tell anyone about the dreams at first. How could she? There's no language for that kind of fear, not when it feels inherited, like a memory that isn't yours but refuses to fade. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. It wasn't the kind of paranoia that comes with shadows or creaking floors. It was subtler. The hum in the air before a thunderstorm, the static that lingers on your skin when you stand too close to something alive and ancient. She started noticing things. Her husband's watch stopped every night at exactly 3:13. The garden soil near the back fence turned dark and soft, no matter how many times she replaced it. And her youngest son, Jacob, began talking to someone in his sleep. When she asked who, he said, "The one who grows." That phrase appeared again 2 days later, carved faintly into the underside of her kitchen table. Desperate for answers, Abigail returned to the archives she'd found online. She traced her lineage backward beyond census records, into parish documents and old land deeds. That's when she found it, the original surveyor's note from 1823, a single line scrawled in the margin beside Elias Thorn's property, Lot 47, ground unsuitable for crops, soil damp, uneasy beneath the spade, uneasy beneath the spade. That phrase haunted her. What kind of man describes dirt as uneasy? But it got worse. Attached to that same file was a short correspondence, written decades later. Between two county officials, Lot 47 remains uninhabited, no crops take root, last family line extinguished, recommend sealing ground and forbidding purchase, signs of prior disturbance confirmed, prior disturbance. When Abigail visited the site herself, it was nothing but a stretch of fenced meadow, eaten by vines. The oak tree was still there, massive, hollowed at its base, its roots thick as limbs. She swore she could feel warmth radiating from the trunk, like breath, and when she pressed her ear against the bark, she didn't hear wind or insects. She heard a heartbeat, slow, deliberate, and deep in the soil. That night she dug up her grandmother's box again. The tooth, the ring, the lock of hair. She noticed something new, faint etchings inside the lid, almost invisible under the old varnish. It said, "The ground remembers. The blood returns." The human mind has a way of protecting itself. It builds walls, seals doors, and labels certain memories as impossible. But some things, some legacies, don't care what you believe. They only care that you exist. After that night, Abigail began to lose time. Entire hours would vanish, replaced by the faint taste of earth in her mouth and the smell of rotting leaves on her clothes. Her husband thought she was sleepwalking. But sleep doesn't leave dirt under your fingernails or scratches along your arms that spell out words you don't remember writing. She started recording herself at night, just a simple camera on the dresser. The first few nights, nothing, but on the fifth, around 3:13 a.m., the picture flickered. Her body sat upright in bed, eyes open. Then she turned toward the camera and smiled, too wide, too still, and whispered something she couldn't recall the next morning. When she played it back, she could barely breathe. Her own voice, distorted and cold, said, "It's hungry again." The next day, she called a historian from Virginia Commonwealth University, a man named Dr. Leland Moore, who specialized in early colonial land disputes. She sent him the documents she'd found, along with photographs of the old tree. He called back within an hour, his voice trembling. He told her the land had once been used as a burial field, not for people, but for something else, something brought from overseas by the first settlers. He refused to elaborate, only saying that the church tried to burn the records in 1781. 3 days later, he was found dead in his office, his fingernails torn away, soil packed beneath what was left of them. That was when Abigail understood this wasn't superstition. This wasn't coincidence. The curse wasn't attached to the house, or the land, or even the oak. It was attached to them, to the Thorns themselves. Every generation born into that bloodline was an offering, and she could feel it now, the pull, the quiet hum in her bones that called her back to the earth. There's something ancient beneath that soil, something that remembers every name it's ever consumed, and it's calling for her by hers. It started small, the way all hauntings do. The smell of damp soil in her car on a dry morning, the faint outline of fingerprints on the inside of her bedroom window, her children talking in their sleep, repeating words she didn't teach them. But then came the sound, a low, rhythmic pulse beneath the floorboards, steady as a heartbeat. It grew louder each night until the house itself seemed to breathe with it. Her husband said it was pipes or vibration from passing trucks. But deep down, Abigail knew it was something else, the same heartbeat she'd heard inside the oak. When she couldn't bear it anymore, she called her grandmother's last surviving friend, an old woman named Mabel Crane. Mabel lived in a nursing home on the outskirts of town, and when Abigail said the name, Thorn, Mabel went silent for a long time. Then she said, "You shouldn't have gone looking." Abigail asked her what the curse was. Mabel's voice cracked as she whispered, "Your family wasn't cursed, child. It was chosen. They made a promise when the old world was still new. A promise to feed what sleeps under the roots. Every 10th born must return to the ground, or the ground comes for everyone." Abigail didn't want to believe it, but belief isn't what keeps the dark away. It's obedience. The next morning, her husband woke to find her standing in the backyard, barefoot, her hands covered in dirt. The garden soil had been dug into long, shallow trenches, perfectly aligned like rows of graves. She had no memory of doing it. That night, the whispers returned. Only now they had voices, many voices, men, women, children, all repeating the same phrase over and over until it merged into one endless drone. "Feed the ground. Feed the ground. Feed the ground." Her daughter woke screaming, saying something had crawled out from under her bed. Something that looked like her mother but wasn't her. Abigail burned the camera, the box, everything. But some things can't be burned. They live in the marrow. And when she looked in the mirror, she saw the soil rising behind her reflection, swallowing the room whole. If you're still watching, you're already braver than most. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if this was your bloodline? By the 7th night, the dreams stopped feeling like dreams. They became memories, familiar, intimate, older than language. Abigail saw faces she didn't recognize, yet somehow knew. The first Thorn, Elias, kneeling in the orchard, his hands slick with blood. Margaret, his wife, weeping as she buried something small and moving beneath the tree. Dozens of generations, one after another, each returning to the same soil, each whispering the same words as they disappeared into the ground. "I feed, so they may live." She saw the land shifting with every burial, swelling like a chest breathing beneath the surface. And then, in the center of it all, that pulsing black mass beneath the oak's roots. Not an object, not a body, something alive, something that had been fed for centuries. When she woke, she wasn't in her bed. She was in her car, parked along a dirt road she didn't recognize. The dashboard clock read 3:13 a.m. Ahead of her through the fog, she saw the tree. The same oak from her dreams. She didn't remember driving, didn't remember leaving the house. But her hands were on the wheel, and her heart was pounding with that same rhythm, the one that came from beneath the earth. As she stepped out, the air grew heavier. The sound was clearer now, resonating through her ribs like an echo inside a hollow drum. She could see shapes moving under the soil, slow and deliberate, like something turning in its sleep. She knelt beside the roots, whispering, "What do you want?" And the answer came, not in words, but in sensation. Hunger, an endless, devouring hunger. She realized then what the curse truly was. Not punishment, not revenge, a covenant. Every 10th generation was a renewal, a reminder. The Thorns had bound their line to an ancient will, and the price of breaking that bond was far worse than death. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A single message from her husband, time-stamped 3 hours earlier. "Where are you? The kids are screaming. The ground won't stop moving." She looked up, and for the first time, she saw what was buried beneath that soil begin to rise. When the ground split, it wasn't with violence. It opened like something breathing in after a long sleep. The air changed, dense, metallic, charged with the scent of decay and iron. The roots twisted upward, not like branches, but like fingers reaching for her. Beneath her feet, the soil shifted, warm and wet, pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Abigail didn't run. She couldn't. The truth had already claimed her. She saw now that every thorn before her had stood in this same place, the 10th in line, called home to pay the debt written in their blood. She was the continuation of a promise she'd never made. From the split earth came voices, hundreds of them, the whispers of those who'd gone before. They called her by name, their tones pleading, remorseful, broken. She thought she could hear her grandmother among them, whispering, "Don't let it starve." And then the ground beneath her knees gave way. For a moment there was only darkness, damp, suffocating, eternal. Her body sank weightless into the living soil. But she didn't die, she saw. Every root, every fiber of the earth was threaded with human forms, faces frozen in the moment of surrender, bones reshaped into the veins of the land itself. They weren't corpses, they were conduits. The Thorn bloodline was the nervous system of something that had no name, something ancient enough to predate language. It spoke through her now, through every drop of blood that carried the memory of its hunger. When the sun rose over Virginia that morning, the meadow was empty again. No car, no footprints, only the oak, its roots slick and fresh with dark soil, as though it had just been fed. In the weeks that followed, neighbors swore they saw a woman standing beneath the tree at dusk, her hands clasped as if in prayer, her eyes hollow and black as the earth itself. The Thorn house in Maryland stands silent. Inside, the walls have begun to crack, and from those cracks a dark, damp soil seeps out slowly, spreading across the floorboards like veins. Some say the curse has ended. Others say it's just beginning again, because the blood never dies. It only changes its shape, and somewhere out there, buried under centuries of lies and silence, the ground is waiting for its next name, its next generation.